2 years before he died, my brother James Arthur Anderson II asked to visit. He was on his way to Alamosa, Colorado, in the San Luis Valley, bordering the great sand dunes and Jack Dempsey's birthplace, and as he put it, your house is in the way. 15 years earlier, I'd told my brother I never wanted to see him again, and that if I did see him, big brother that I was, that I would bring him hurt. My suggestion of providential violence was hollow noise, as Jim was 7 years younger, half a foot taller, and savvy as a burned snake. My brother had been in the army, broken horses, brawled in bars, and had survived in a Canadian prison after working over that off-duty Royal Canadian Mounted Policeman with a bat. He'd also stolen, then squandered my father's life savings, which was the reason I'd told him to stay away. When I pulled in from work, he was parked, facing the wrong way, beside the sidewalk in front of my house. He was dismantling his truck, engine parts on the asphalt and grass. When he saw me, he stepped down from his chrome front bumper. He performed a fairly competent about-face and showed me his hands. They were dirty, black. For a minute, I realized how long it had been since I wielded a ratcheting wrench, a double jack, an axe. My shoes were impractical, Corfam, polished plastic that made your feet sweat. Jim wore boots with thick soles, probably steel-toed, oil-resistant. I was in polyester uniform, 2 years from retirement after 22 years of active military service. Vietnam came and went, and I'd forgotten to muster out. I'd kept meaning to, but the Air Force had sent me to university twice for advanced degrees, and I was and had been teaching English at the United States Air Force Academy. My attempt to dodge Vietnam as a foot soldier, my draft lottery number being number 1, had led somehow to my dream profession, teaching college. Jim gave me the once-over, then saluted. "Colonel," he said. We embraced. Jim had been a private in the Army, dishonorably discharged for serial AWOL. Though it's not accurate, my recollection is that my brother had his truck's engine, block and all, out and set on the ground. I not only see the engine outside the truck, I can hear it running. I can picture my dead brother adjusting the idle. On the side street of my sidewalk, on a strip of lawn, were a half-dozen full-grown trees, pin oak and Russian elm. Leaned against each trunk was at least one rifle, a couple of them scoped. In my mind's eye, I also see ammunition and the knife in his boot that Jim would show me later. In the street, he was stripped to the waist. He was scarred, stomach, ribs, back, fingers. I pointed to one nasty mark. "Bullet," he said. Then he touched another, box cutter. I knew something about ribs and horses, and I brought that up. He said something to the effect that only men were sneakier than livestock. A couple of kids coasted by on their bikes. I asked if the rifles were loaded. "A lot of good they'd be if they weren't," said Jimmy. I went into the house to change. Ellen was making supper. "So that's Jimmy," she said. "We've talked. He's happy to see you. We should eat on the porch." Ellen had never met Jimmy, as she and I had at that time been married 3 years. As I recall Ellen's words, I realize it was full summer when Jimmy visited, the trees leafed out and the grass green, the sky blue and light until 9 p.m., the sound of timed sprinklers doing their work. Jimmy reassembled his truck, stowed his weapons, and showered. When he came out to eat, his hands were cleaner, his hair combed. His T-shirt was new. It was black cotton that had never been washed and featured a furling American flag. He had the shirt tucked in, When he turned his back on purpose, dropped out in white were the words, "Try to burn this one, asshole." When he turned to sit, the chain hooked to his keys, an oversized wallet chimed. "I knew you'd like it," he said. Colonel. Jimmy didn't stop on his way back north to Idaho, where he lived with his wife and guns. The shotgun he stole from my father was the one he chose to shoot himself in the head on the day after his second shipment of morphine patches had arrived. Back when Jimmy had been released from prison, he rode a horse from Alberta to Santa Fe. Who do you know who has done that?